What if Jed McKenna had a wife and kids? Oh, this. So I had this idea last night for a video. If you don't know who Jed McKenna is, it's probably not going to apply to you, but if you've read any of his books, Spiritual Enlightenment, The Damnedest Thing, Spiritual Warfare, Spiritually Incorrect Enlightenment, he's got this pretty wild trilogy, and it was definitely one of the most impactful, if not the most impactful series of books that I've ever experienced in my life. And when I was first going through this sort of awakening, it was kind of the only guiding light in that experience. Now, one of the common criticisms of Jed, even though, as you'll come to find out reading Jed, that Jed doesn't actually exist. There is no Jed. Nobody knows who wrote the books. So any criticism is really just, unfounded, because it has nothing to do with anything but yourself. Reading a book, the experience you have. You can try to make it about somebody else, but everything we experience, comes back to our own self and how we can relate that and what we can learn from that. So, I was first reading the books, and noticing a lot of the criticism was like, well, here's this guy who's talking about being, enlightened, and really painting this picture of enlightenment as this very kind of lonely thing where you don't have friends and family and the chance, having kids and a wife. Like, well, what? And I think I took that on for a bit, and I assumed that it kind of the classic, like, oh, if you want to be the Buddha, just eat like the Buddha and dress like the Buddha. But you're missing the whole point, right? It's like the superficial stuff. And that's a big thing in the Jed books. He paints such a picture of himself, and he's not the normal enlightened guy. He's playing video games and riding bikes and skydiving and stuff, and eating meat. And I think that's one of the beauties of it. He's like, once you kind of wake up, you go through this whole awakening, and then you come back and you got to slip on a costume and a character. And because he doesn't talk about babies and birth and being a parent and all these things, I think people assume that you can't have both. The truth is, once you wake up, it doesn't really matter what you do. He has a great quote. I'm gonna disregard, or I'm gonna miss it pretty terribly. But he says something like, first wake up, and then if you want to travel the world or save the whales, lucky whales, but first wake up. And that's how I've always really seen it. It's wake up, make sense of what life is. Waking up, enlightenment isn't this, okay, I'm this heightened, elevated guru now, and I must teach my classes. It's okay, I'm awake. Cool. Okay, I see the world for as it is. I'm part of this, no separate, non-dual experience. Cool. Okay, now what do I want to do? I think a lot of people get caught up in thinking it's a spiritual experience, but spirituality is mostly just a marketplace where people sell things and healing types and crystals and ideas. And if that's your bag, cool, but it's no more spiritual than living your life. Having kids, being in a relationship doesn't make you less spiritual or less, enlightened. That's all the illusion. Once you wake up, you're just awake. And you make sense of this world from that state, and from there, whatever makes sense, you do. And for me and for my partner, we wanted to have kids. And I mean, look at this. Are you not the most enlightened of all time? Something we really felt this deep calling and desire to do, and it's been an incredibly rewarding and beautiful experience. But I don't look at it as like, oh, you have to have kids, or it's the right choice, or it's the best thing to do. It's just something that made sense to us, and that's what we did. And we're out here in Colorado, homesteading, living our life, growing food, preserving stuff, fermenting things, making bread every day, being cute with this silly one. And it just makes sense. So if you're out there thinking, oh, I can't, I need to either choose the route of the monk and the guru or whatever, or have the kids and family, they're not mutually exclusive. Whatever makes sense, you do. So I could go on forever, but we've been really loving this baby life. And all the things people say, it's everybody's got their own opinions and ideas and beliefs and characters, and just like anything else, the same with kids. And there can be challenging times, and there can be rewarding times, but it's just life. Things happen. You do things, you react, you experience, you create. Other things happen, flow through life. experience the mystery. Part of waking up is being aware of what is, right? Coming to this sense of like, oh, this is how things work. But then the way it unfolds, right? The way it actually comes to be, that's the mystery, that's the beauty. And we get to be in that dance. We get to ride those waves and see what happens. And, part of why we host retreats and teach classes in this place is to bring people closer to this life, just to see what it's like. Not say, hey, we've got the right way of living, but this is just one way. And if you want to experience it, come hang out. So you can find some links and stuff in this video, and if you want to reach out, you can always come say hi. All right, Bubs. That's all we do. There you go.